Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. I'm going to keep this one really quick, but there is a way that you can make tier 17 maps a little bit easier that is somewhat counterintuitive. This mostly helps on the boss and the most dangerous of the rare monsters in the map, and it involves Delirium. Those of you that are familiar with Delirium will know that if you're running a map and there is a Delirium layer or more than one Delirium layer applied to the map, then occasionally rare monsters in ARP will interrupt what they're doing in order to have their Delirium apparition perform some attack on you. What's important about this is that those Delirium attacks, while they do something, they're not nearly as dangerous as what the map boss would otherwise be doing, especially for the bosses, but also for some of the sketchy rares. And that's double, triple, quadruple a case in tier 17 maps. Now, each layer of Delirium that's applied to a map does add 6% monster damage to every monster in the map, and also 16% damage reduction to unique monsters, and more than 19% to trash monsters. So it's not without consequence, but it does, as a whole package, make these maps easier. So what you can do, if you've got a map like this Abomination map here, you can always upgrade it with a Delirium orb and make it exactly 20% delirious. You'll also see I've got a whole bunch of Delirium Scarab of Delusions here. That's because whenever I am running tier 16 maps, I'm running one of those in there, in order that any map that drops, whether it be tier 16 or tier 17, is already pre-affected by at least one orb of Delirium. It isn't rare to get 2, 3, 4 or 5 Delirium orbs applied to a tier 17 that way. Those will have more loot than a normal one, but they're probably a bit harder than a 0% delirious. 20% is definitely the sweet spot, where those apparition attacks will be used enough to make it easier, and particularly to give you a bit of a breather on tough bosses, but at the same time, they will also not be adding too much to the monster's base stats. I will finish up by saying that I'm recording this video on day 9 of the league. It's entirely possible Grinding Gear Games might decide to change the way this works. I don't think it needs it. It's not as broken as the thing I went public on last league, where Einhar was one-shotting the bosses of tier 17 maps, but it is something that makes them a little bit easier, and that does seem a little bit strange, so it wouldn't shock me if they changed this, but it also wouldn't shock me if they leave it as is. That's all I got for the moment. May your Valobs have interesting results.